Hello and welcome back to Optometry Unleashed. I'm your host, Dr. Trevor Miranda, and today we're diving into a big topic, underlying eye health as well as life in a general way, and that's longevity. As we grow older, our focus shifts towards how we can lead longer, fuller lives. We ask ourselves, what can we do today to make tomorrow even better? And joining us today is someone who truly embodies this pursuit. He's a longtime friend of mine. Some might say he's a brother from another mother. We'll show you a picture to prove that shortly. And his name is Ravi Tanna. Ravi's a seasoned pro in the eye care industry, with a career spanning top-tier companies like Alcon, Johnson & Johnson, and Bausch & Lomb. Currently, Ravi serves as the Vice President of Sales at MacuMira, Canada's first and only treatment for dry age-related macular degeneration, and improves vision for patients with macular degeneration. Aside from his impressive career, what I greatly admire about Ravi is that he's a lifelong learner, and his persistence to make every day count makes him a force to be reckoned with. So get ready to be inspired as Ravi shares his secrets for longevity, leadership, and a proactive living. Let's get started. Thanks for joining us on Optometry Unleashed, Ravi.
Thanks, Trevor. I am super honored that you have me on. I'm stoked to be here. And I would say I am 80% stoked, 20% terrified.
I was listening to another podcast, by the way, and they said, hey, that stress that you feel, that 20% of fear is just reallocating your body resources for greatness. It's oxygenation to your heart beats a little faster, you get more oxygenation, your brain's ready, and it's a mindset change where you just think, okay, that's me getting prepped, ready for greatness. So that's what your body's telling you right now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. You're like my optometry life coach. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. So I think it's going to be a great podcast. And thanks again for joining us, Ravi. You recently sent me a picture of both of us when we were about 5 years old. And can you tell me about that picture?
Yeah. It's like the super nerd picture. So I was 5. It was probably taken in England. So shortly before we moved to Canada. And yeah, I'm wearing a dress shirt and a tie as a 5-year-old. And what were you wearing?
Dress shirt and a tie, clip-on tie for me, of course. And we look like brothers. And we kind of joke around. At times people have got us confused, right? Back when you had hair,
yeah,
we were, mistaken for each other at dinner events, and I had to pretend to be Ravi Tanna the whole night.
That's awesome. I think the first time we met, I was thinking about it. It was at the conference in BC in 1996. And before it was called BCDO, if I recall, it was called the BCAO conference. And you were there. You were one of the first people I met in optometry. Like, hey, there's a short brown guy, kind of like me. I had hair. And for some reason, both of our wives were at that conference too, like at the trade show. And I remember we had our backs turned to my wife, Renee, and she got us mixed up. So there you go.
That's perfect. Yeah. So, wow, you're everywhere right now. You're really busy.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So basically started with MacuMira back in March. So I'm about 6 or 7 weeks in. And yeah, we're launching. It's been 7 years to get here to develop a commercialized product. And we're in launch mode. We're at the BC conference. We're at the Ontario conference in London, Ontario, that is. And it was great. Lots of activity at the booth, lots of interest. We're getting tons of inquiries from the website, from doctors who want more information or want to schedule a demo. The first question I usually ask them is, how did you hear about us? Because we haven't done any marketing yet. So it's been really good. Really excited about it. I know we're going to get much more deep into that conversation. So this is year 22 in eye care. So I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, you've done so many different things in eye care, but at the same time, you've made so many great relationships. And I think you were telling me, Ravi, you just keep coming back to eye care. I know you went to diabetes one time, but it's just, these are your friends, and it doesn't seem like work when you're hanging out with your buddies.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So yeah, it's 28 years in the business of healthcare. 22 of those have been in eye care. So started with Ciba Vision, which became Alcon. So I was there a long time, like 14 plus years. J&J for 5 years, Bausch & Lomb for 3 years, and now MacuMira. And I'm kind of, even though I've left the space a couple times and gone to diabetes and cardiovascular and even medical aesthetics for a year, which was pretty wild, I keep coming back, and it's almost like I'm too deep in. I can't leave optometry now. because my friends are here and I have FOMO. I'm like, if I leave, then I'll miss all the fun late nights at conferences and all the shenanigans and hijinks and the fun that, all the fun people have in the world of optometry. So I'm here.
It's a great profession, optometry. I always think, like, when's the next fun thing? And I look forward to it. And it kind of helps with, the dog days of working. You've got something fun to look forward to get together with your buddies at a conference or, a leadership training or all those kind of cool things. So, I've really appreciated, connecting with you over the years, Ravi, and sharing, similar stories as our wives are kind of, I think, vegetarian or partially vegetarian. They have similar tastes, and we get to share, stories and thoughts about, growing up and growing up in eye care in a way, and now becoming, mentors to the next generation.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, and our kids are around the same age, right? All within like probably a couple of years of each other, and yeah, the way I kind of think about it is, as much as we're in the work world and we're running a business and we're working with teams and people and customers and patients now too. I always think like, okay, my boys who are 21 and 23, they're watching me, right? Like they're watching like what I do, how I conduct myself. I mean, they're probably listening to this podcast right now from another room. So I always try to, conduct myself in a way from a business point of view, because we're in the business of healthcare. That's, the high road, the noble road, doing the right thing all the time, because, they're going to learn just from osmosis. And I come from a healthcare family as well. My parents were both physicians. There's like 17 healthcare professionals in our family overall. And so we kind of live in this world and it's cool. And so I really like working with optometry because it's probably the most fun type of healthcare professional I've ever worked with. And that, you guys are taking care of patients, but you're also running a business. You're real. You're not overly stressed and on call. There's no blood on your hands. Nobody's dying. Bad stuff can happen for sure, but optometry is just a nice, friendly, level-headed group of people for the most part. So I can't leave.
I wanted to talk about your active lifestyle, Ravi. I know you keep yourself fit, and what's your exercise routine?
Yeah, good question. So I'm 55 now. I'm about to turn 56. So I really do value health a lot. My parents were physicians. I come from a big healthcare family, and health is super important. Your mental health, your physical health. And hey, man, I want to be thriving until I'm 99. That's my goal, to live to 99 and be crushing it. And so, so my routine is I kind of have like 3 hard days a week. So I go to CrossFit twice and just go full out at my capacity. I play hockey once a week, which I totally love. And then the other 3 or 4 days are kind of active recovery. So kind of biking, walking, pickleball has come up in the last couple of summers. And just something to keep moving. And I find just from a work point of view as well, it helps mitigate the stress, just takes the edge off. I'm just a nicer version of myself if I've had some movement throughout the course of the day.
Yeah, I agree. Pickleball is also a big thing. That my wife and I, we're empty nesters now, so she's like, we're going to play pickleball together. And I'm not allowed to play with anybody else to get too good, which I'm not sure about, but I'm like, okay, I've agreed. Playing pickleball with my wife, so that's exciting. Pickleball is fun though, but it's like 2 hours. After a while, you feel sore too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can feel it the next day. And but the cool thing is, like, we go to pickleball. We live in Airdrie, just outside of Calgary in Alberta, and pickleball courts are very popular. And we're typically among the younger people that are out there, so it kind of makes us feel like youthful and alive too. But at the same time, the people that are on the courts that are like 10 or maybe even 20 years older than us, they are so impressive. Like they love what they do. They put in the work to build those skills. It's a very quick and easy game to learn. Hopefully I'm not offending professional pickleballers. But I see them out there and I'm like, wow, like there's a 75-year-old dude just crushing it. I want to be that guy in 20 years, right? So it's very inspiring to see them as well.
Yeah, but you're like the pickleball, rookie of the year because you're 20 years younger. You come in, they're like, who's this young buck who's just crushing it on the court? So, but you're right. There's a lot of skill out there, from let's say, seniors and some folks a little bit older than us that really keep fit and really enjoy moving their bodies every day. So I think that's awesome. It's inspirational. I know, Ravi, online you share a lot of videos and you've got this longevity lab at the gym. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how your mom's out there?
Yeah. So as I'm kind of working on my own health and wellness, I'm trying to get my friends involved, my friends who are in their kind of 40s, 50s, and 60s. And a lot of those guys are like, I know I should do something, but I can't do CrossFit. It's just too gnarly and too intense. I'm like, hey, don't worry. I'll build a thing for us. So I started this class on Saturday mornings at our local CrossFit gym in Calgary called Elevate CrossFit. And I called the session Longevity Lab. And it's basically for people in that 40, 50, 60 age range. We work out as a group, like in partners. It's a functional fitness class. So we're doing things that kind of mimic things that you do in real life or in your sport. And there's no 20-year-old, so you don't have to feel intimidated, right? And then I always give a little talk around, maybe other things like your healthy biomarkers, like, your A1C or your blood glucose, your blood pressure, your lipids, just other nutrition, just other things that are factors in your lifestyle. And there's 3 optometrists that have been in that group as well, which is kind of cool, right? So my friends who are ODs are joining. And then some of them, like Heather Cowie, who's an optometrist here in Airdrie, she's brought her parents. So they're in their 70s. Her mom is a retired physician. And then my mom, who's 84, also a retired physician, I kind of bring her in as the excuse breaker. So I tell my buddies, hey, if you're whining about this, just look over there. There's my mom. And, just toughen up. She's doing a version of what you're doing that's right for her. And so anything, right, is feasible and doable. So she's been great as my quote unquote demo athlete.
I love the videos of your mom. Like she's just giving it, on that seated row. I'm like, wow. She's like, tuned in. She dialed, which I like is awesome. Just a lot of everything is just being all in mentally, with what you're doing, right? And I know you embody that mindset. So it's a physical piece that you got to put the time in, but that mental piece to discipline your mind to always be just loving what you're doing. I think you just really, to me, of all my colleagues and friends, you're one of those guys that just embraces that mindset.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think, it's just better to be all in on the thing that you're doing, right? Because if you're all in, you kind of your heart and soul's in it. The people around you pick up on your energy. It's way better than being halfway in or tiptoe. I get that sometimes people have to tiptoe into something new, but once you find your thing, whatever it is, I'd encourage people to just be all in, just be like crazy all in, whether it's your work, your family, just day-to-day life, find the things that really light you up and give you energy and double down on those. I almost tell people like, don't even worry about your weaknesses, yes. Do you have to do an expense report every once in a while so you don't get in trouble? Yeah. Am I the world's best expense report guy? Absolutely not. My boss is probably going to be listening to this. Justin, there you go. But if you double down on your strengths, that's where I think you can make a bigger impact on the world and the people around you. You're playing to your strengths, your innate wirings and tendencies. And that's, if we went to Vegas, you double down on the game that you were good at and the table that was hot, right? So same philosophy.
No, I agree totally. And, it's interesting, pull it back to optometry. We do a strengths finder for each of our employees, and we try to focus and put them in the position to utilize their strengths the best. But that just lets them have fun, lets them find success because we're playing to their strengths. And it's a circle that just, re-engages them, reinforces that mechanism of enjoying what you do and being all in. And you and I have chatted about saying yes, because we want to say yes and have fun and be all in. But I think some people mistake that, for, hey, these guys are super intense because they just seem to be like, ready to go and all in. But it's because we love what we do and we've consciously chosen that.
Yeah. And it's that saying yes story. I got to thank you for that because that's something that was really, really positive for me last year. So last year I turned 55 and now, you're past midlife, right? Like you're not like,
we'll see.
Let's say I live to 110.
Hey, we can aim high.
My goal is 99 just because I like the sound of that number. And that was Wayne Gretzky's number. So
yes.
I like 99. And it's epic and it shows that you've built durability and longevity. But yeah, at 55, I'm like, okay, wow. Like the day I turned 55, I'm like, pretty soon I'm going to be closer to 60 than 50. And so it gets you thinking just about life, in general. And I remember at multiple conferences, you and I were up at 2, 3, or 4 a.m. having a couple of drinks, hanging out with fun people in the eye care space. And you had talked about this philosophy of saying yes. And I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. And you said, if I recall the story correctly, because we'd had a couple of drinks, you're like, hey, my buddies will call me and they'll be like, hey, Trevor, do you wanna? And you'll just say yes. And they'll be like, hey, you don't know what I'm going to ask you. And you say, well, I know who you are and the quality type of person that you are. So I'm just going to say yes. And so I adopted that last year. Last year was one of the most fun years of my life. I said yes to a lot of things. Um, and it kind of just, yeah, it changed my mindset. It allowed me to kind of have more fun at work as well. And if anybody here can access my old Bosch& Lomb laptop, which is probably sitting in a storage room in Toronto somewhere, I changed my password to saying yes. So every morning when I woke up, that was the first thing I typed in. And, I typed that in multiple times during the day. So I got to thank you for that, Trev. That was like a big part of, just a positive mindset for last year. And on my new laptop, that's not my password, or I've added a few numbers so you can't hack in.
That's a great story. I love it. I hope none of my buddies are listening to the podcast because they're going to ask me outrageous things that I have to say yes to. So we'll have to edit this out. But thank you for that story. That's fantastic. And it's tremendous mindset change, that we can undergo to keep our mind young at heart and embrace every day. So you certainly embody that, Ravi. And I know part of your self-improvement mentality is this Kaizen Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. This is, you and your viewers might laugh at this, but I remember in university, so in Saskatoon at University of Saskatchewan, I'm up late at night because, it's university, we go out, and I come home, flip on the TV, and there's like Tony Robbins and his infomercial. And I'm like, wow, this guy is like full of energy, and it's like a personal development guru guy, and it's kind of cheesy and corny, but there was some of the things he said like really landed with me. And I thought, you know what, I should probably just buy this stupid 10 CD set for like $250 that I didn't have. And so I ordered it one night, probably after a couple drinks. And then that's one of the things that he talked about was this concept from Japan called Kaizen. There's actually no equivalent word for it in English, and it basically means constant and never-ending improvement. And I was pretty shy and nerdy, especially around people I didn't know. I was super shy. And I was like, yeah, I need to do that. I need to like improve myself so that as I go through university and get into the workforce, I can build some more skills versus just being like little shy Ravi. And so, and it's funny, we were just recently watching, there's a Netflix special on Tony Robbins. And so, like 40 years later, maybe, almost 40 years later, I'm still kind of watching some of his content. And I think we all have this amazing supercomputer that sits on top of our shoulders. And, it's neuroplastic. It always wants to learn and grow and develop. And if we kind of give it that opportunity, we can keep getting better, as we get older, and kind of build that longevity and enjoy life, right? And be a good role model for our kids as well.
I think that philosophy also applies to business, in our optometry practices, that constant improvement, that seeking feedback and making small changes, incrementally adds up to big changes over time. So love to see it where people are making, individual improvements, but it's even cooler in a lot of ways when you're a team and the team's growing together. It can, make for some amazing group changes and dynamics that way. So kudos for you. Thanks for sharing that story. I want to talk about injuries. I know you had a significant back injury in 2015. And to me, a couple things, when your back hurts and there's pain, it's miserable and, it's really demotivating. You can't work out like you used to, and you just feel like in pain all the time. So how did you manage through that, and what lessons did you learn?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've had two pretty significant back injuries in my life. One of them, I was probably like 21 or 22. I was in university. I was playing junior B hockey. I'm a goalie. I played the puck behind the net, and a guy just hit me from behind, just smoked me, like folded me in half. And I remember coming home to my apartment and I actually couldn't get off the floor. I had to phone a girl that lived upstairs in our apartment building. She was really cute and good looking. So she came down and helped me like actually get off the floor. And so my back had kind of bothered me on and off since then. You know, you get into your 30s and 40s, and then yeah, like 2015, I was in a CrossFit competition, my first one, and I did way too much. Like I was dumb Ravi that day, and my back was really jacked up, and I went to my chiropractor. She ordered an X-ray, and when she read the results of the X-ray to me, it was actually really devastating, and it was something like I think I felt like I blacked out at the time, but it was something like, you've got like stage 2 spinal decompression. You're losing, space between your discs. They're getting compressed. You're losing your lumbar curve. So she's like, I would recommend you don't squat, deadlift, play hockey anymore. And up till then, I was 47 at the time. And I remember because I'd started CrossFit, I was feeling like amazing. I was like, wow, I'm 27 again. This is so cool. But in that moment, the story I told myself was like, oh my God, it's over. I'm 87, like in a heartbeat. And so those thoughts kind of permeated in my head, like that was a thought that kept gaining traction. And pretty soon I fell into a brutal depression. And I'd never experienced anything like that before, Trev. Like it was 100 days of hell. Like I was in this deep, dark hole. I couldn't get out. I went to my doctor and I'm like, hey, I'm struggling through this back recovery and I'm really down and I can barely function. Like I think I'm going to get fired at work. Like I'm totally useless. You got to give me an antidepressant. And I don't like taking anything. And he's like, that's a long commitment. I want to have you talk to like a healthcare professional, like a psychologist first. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And she was amazing. Her name was Leslie. And with cognitive behavioral therapy, which is an approach where you change your thought patterns, right? Which you change your thought, it elicits a different feeling and then a different action, a different result. She helped me get out of that hole in 4 1-hour sessions. So it was the first time I'd ever had like a major mental health challenge, that came from that back injury. So I'm really open talking about it because at the time I felt I was just alone, like maybe I'm the only 47-year-old dude that doesn't have his act together and is struggling. But I've told that to a lot of people. I've put it on Instagram as well. And it really resonates with people because you're not alone, right? So whether it's in sport or business or in life, there's just times where it's going to be tough. And there's people around you and, in your friends and your family circle or with a healthcare professional that can help you. So thanks for asking that question. And I kind of get chills talking about that because that was a tough time in my life. And I'm really glad that I was able to get out of that with help.
Well, thanks for sharing that story, Ravi. I mean, it's interesting because people from the outside might never think a guy like you, who's really fun to be around with, and always in our mind upbeat and happy and doing amazing things, might have these challenges, and that there might not be an all-time thing. It might be an episode like you had where it was a bit challenging at that time of your life, and having a community that you can share challenges with or talk it out. We have a group in optometry that we get together and chat about things business wise, but also just life wise. And it's really good to have, that social network too, that can help you when times are tough or talk you through things as well. So I love that, that network of people that you can trust when you have challenges too. I think that's part of what we need.
Yeah, I agree. My best buddy lives in Vancouver. His name is Sanjay. You met him at BCDO the other year. Another brown guy with the same haircut as me. And for your audio listeners, I have no hair, so that's what the haircut looks like. But yeah, he's an entrepreneur. He's been through his own health challenges early on with lupus, lost his kidney function, went on dialysis while he was running his multiple businesses. And the most positive guy I've ever met, probably you and him would be like neck and neck, high energy, high positivity. And we always talk about, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, like they are the people that influence you. They support you. They cheer you on when times are good. They support you when times are tough. And I've really found that that is such a great philosophy. Like you would easily be in that group of five, Trev. Like you're a very positive influence, in my circle. But what I've also found too is that once you have that group of five, you get a ripple effect as well, because those five people hang out with other like-minded people who are good thinkers, they embracing and enjoying life. And that circle actually organically builds. That circle of five can easily jump to 25, right? Because as you meet those new people in your life, they also have positive circles. And so, it's really cool to be with people like that versus people who are, negative, jaded, bitter. I don't hang out with those people. So they're not for me. Pass.
No, that's great. I think that's important. You got to make decisions, and as you said with Kaizen, that continuous improvement means that you can't be around people that are bringing you the other way. So you got to keep going in the positive direction. And that means the mindset and the people around you helping support your mindset in a positive way. And it's amazing, even on the culture that we build in our clinics, we like to talk about this is when you have an interaction, you could either go and make another person more negative or more positive. And which way on the culture building scale are you? Are you a drag on it, on culture, or are you a positive on it? And we speak to our employees and our team members and say, we value this. We consider which way directionally you are in terms of determining compensation in our reviews and such. So it's a factor that we consider when we look at your asset value to the practice. I think that's, a lot of people don't think about it hard enough that, your attitude and your attitude impact on others, your colleagues, matters so much to the direction of everything in your life, everything in your office, every interaction with every patient. So, it's a thing that I think we need to bring it up higher on the list of things that we consider.
Yeah, I agree. And you guys you've built a great culture at Kaizen Eye Care. I've met, a number of members of your team, and they're just awesome, all the way from, Ronnie, your wellness director, to Kiara, who's like your superstar staff member on the AMD side, and yeah, Catherine, Anita, like it's just a great group that you have there. And, my philosophy somehow has evolved to be that we're in the people business. So regardless of what business you're in, like we just happen to be in eye care, but truly you're in the people business, right? Especially when you're in healthcare. But you could say that about just about any business. If that's the way that you go about things and that you're building a culture, you're getting the right people on the team, you're investing in those people, you're developing them, you're going to have great days and you're going to have really challenging days where stuff goes sideways. And on those challenging days, you help each other and you become problem solvers. One of my previous managers, Amir Roisman, said one time, nobody is smarter than all of us. So when things are going sideways, everybody kind of, crowdsources the answer, puts their brains together, and that's how you get to the next step. So yeah, I think whether it's at Kaizen Eye Care or, at a provincial association or in our company at MacuMira, like we want to have the right people there. We want to have the right mindset. And I said this to a staff member in a clinic in Ontario one time. I said, everything is figure outable. And she was like, oh, I've never heard that. I don't think that's a real word. I'm like, hey, you can put that on a t-shirt and you can make $1 million and just send me the royalty. But yeah, I truly believe everything is figure outable with the right people on the bus.
Yeah, and the right attitude. If you believe you can figure it out, I think you can figure it out. So that's a great story. Thanks. And you and I had these, outrageous ideas in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways they're not. And it kind of comes to fruition, some of the things that we think, hey, maybe we should do a podcast. Maybe we should, do some consulting. Maybe we should open, AMD macular degeneration wellness locations. So we can treat it proactively, and maybe we can improve vision. Maybe we can prevent vision loss and prevent people from going blind. It seems like an outrageous goal, but those goals are getting closer to reality now. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's been really interesting to see how optometry is building a number of different subspecialties, obviously around dry eye, and the Dry Eye Summit, was a big part of that, that community that you and a number of other doctors, built and was really successful. And then it's funny, even that year that I was away from eye care and I worked in medical aesthetics, it was a weird interesting, kind of cool, but also weird world. And then when I came back to eye care, I'm like, what the heck is happening? All these clinics now are starting to branch out into aesthetics, right? Because you have, this rectangle, everything around your eyes, you guys can own that. And so whether it's dry eye or branching out into aesthetics, more and more clinics were doing that. And it really kind of blew me away. And it made me pay more attention to, like vision therapy or NeuroLens or myopia management, like all these other subspecialties. So I think that, now that we have a device that's, Health Canada approved, right, to improve visual function for patients with dry AMD, like it's an exciting new space. And when I was interviewing with MacuMira, I remember I had talked to you and you talked about myretina.ca, this new community that you're building. And my immediate gut reaction was, oh no, I'm late to the party. Like I'm already missing out, So that kind of spurred me to go further in the interview process, find out more about what we're doing here. And then it was an easy decision to come on board.
Yeah, it's great. Just for some of our listeners that may not know what we're talking about here, macular degeneration is the leading cause of blindness in the world. I think it's 2.5 million Canadians are affected by macular degeneration to varying degrees. Sometimes, at the worst case, it can be devastating. And the macular area is the center part of our vision. The part we see faces with, the part that we read with. We see, our color vision's there. So losing that central vision to macular degeneration can be devastating. And I know I want to ask you about your dad's story here, Ravi, but I think that is part of what drew you into joining MacuMira. And, part of what I wanted to do at my retina was create this community of practitioners that are versed on how to treat macular degeneration, in a proactive way, in an early way, so that we can improve lives, improve vision, and potentially, slow down that blinding process that is age-related macular degeneration. So I wanted to talk to you, Ravi, about your dad's story. And, and you've shared with me that your dad had macular degeneration. He was a physician, so he was in healthcare, cared about his health. Can you just tell me a little bit about that? And, as I told the listeners, macular degeneration, leading cause of blindness in Canada, affects the center part of your vision. We see it every day in our clinic to varying degrees. Early macular degeneration where the patient doesn't even know they have it, to, moderate late stage macular degeneration where they literally cannot see to read, can't see their food, can't see faces, and it can be, devastating to their life. So tell me your dad's story.
Yeah. It's interesting how it came about. Like I was cruising along at Bausch & Lomb as professional relations manager, really loved it. Great group of people that I worked with there, and like a cool role. And then, poof, out of the blue, I got this phone call from Justin Sather, our CEO. And my dad had macular degeneration the last 5 years of his life. And even though I've spent like my entire career on the contact lens side, somehow this one just felt different. So, I'm just going to hold up a picture of my dad here for the people that are on, watching it, on video. But
he looks like a cool dude. He's like, almost a Telly Savalas look there with the sunglasses. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, like definitely a unique personality, and loved being a physician, like absolutely loved it. And I remember, I don't know, this was probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Yeah, we were in Calgary and we were driving in the city, and somehow we just pulled over in this hotel parking lot to, I don't know, take a phone call or get a snack or something. And I was in the driver's seat, he was in the passenger seat, and he says, "Hey, just so you know, I'm starting to lose my vision." And I'm like, "What?" I was shocked. I was gutted, actually, Trevor. And I'm like, "Well, what's happening?" He's like, "I have AMD. I'm starting to lose my central vision." And I was like, "Oh no," because he was just about to retire. My parents retired at 78, crazy people. And, in retirement, the plan was like, he was going to take 1,000 pictures a day. Like he loved photography. And so in that moment, I just remember how visceral my reaction was, like how heartbroken I was that, he told me he's losing his vision. And so, so in those last 5 years of his life, as dry AMD progressed to wet, then it's like, okay, so now we need to see an ophthalmologist. You're going to have an intravitreal injection, so a needle that goes into your eye with a medication called Eylea. And coincidentally, our COO, Elsa Gomez, actually came from 10 years at Bayer, and she launched Eylea. So it's funny how all these threads are there from the universe, right? With my dad to this medication. And so, yeah, I went with him to all those appointments. And I remember the first time, I asked the ophthalmologist, Dr. Karani in Calgary, super, super nice, super kind man, like one of the kindest people I've ever met. I was like, hey, I work in eye care. Do you think I can come in and watch the procedure? I'm interested. And it's my dad. And he's like, oh yeah, for sure. Come on in. No problem at all. And then before he's ready to inject, he goes, hey, I just want to warn you, it's a little intense. I'm like, no problem. I got it. I can watch all kinds of surgeries on YouTube while I'm having a snack. Like, it doesn't bother me at all. The needle went into my dad's eye and I was just cold sweat. I had to grab onto the edge of the table because it was my dad. And I was like a foot and a half away. Like, I watched it up close. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing every 6 weeks for the rest of your life. And so, when the opportunity at MacuMira came up, I'm like, wow, like there is a device now and a treatment procedure that optometrists can utilize in clinic. Ophthalmologists can as well, but I think it'll be primarily optometry that will utilize this. And you can intervene much earlier in the disease state for that patient. You can give them hope. You can give them acuity back. You can give them contrast sensitivity. Like, you can improve the quality of their life for sure. And I wish my dad had this, early in his AMD journey. Like, it would have changed the course of the last years of his life for sure. And then I'm just gonna pause for a second and compose myself a little bit. But then I also have a camera from him too. So after he had passed away, I was cleaning out some of his stuff and I'm in the garage and I see this kind of metal container. I'm like, that's weird. I wonder what's in there. So I open it up and there's this camera. So for our viewers, people listening on audio, this is a Voigtlander camera that he bought in Germany in the 1960s. He loved photography. This was his first real camera. Look at that. There's on the bottom, it says Dr. D. Tanna in that old kind of Dymo tape labeler kind of thing, like from the 80s. So he bought this camera when he was 27. I asked my mom about it. He had saved up for years to buy it. It was his first DSLR, like nice camera. When I started with CibaVision, I was 27. Like, it's kind of trippy that way too. And so his plan in retirement was just take 1,000 pictures a day, but he couldn't because he couldn't see centrally. And for photography, that's really what you need, right? So I'm like, Dad, you've got like 20 cameras and including this beauty from Germany from the 1960s, and you can't use them. And I'm like, what about an iPad? We'll get you an iPad and you can take it. And he's like, it's just not the same. So I could see how just psychologically and mentally and emotionally it crushed him. And so when this opportunity came up, I'm like, yeah, we owe it to people like my dad to be able to do something, to be able to help them. And so every time I'm in a clinic and we're doing an install and a training, training their staff, if it's a gentleman in the chair, like, I just see my dad, to be honest, Trev. And if it's a female, I just see my mom, who doesn't have AMD, but I want her to live as long as possible. She's my workout partner. So yeah, like, it's really, I feel like the universe has called me to this, and I feel like we've got something that's an amazing tool for optometry, and we can help a lot of people. Out of those 2.5 million people in Canada, about 2 million of them have dry AMD. And so whether they're early, intermediate, or even late stage, there's ways that those folks can be helped. So so there's a lot of deep meaning and purpose in this venture for me.
Yeah, thanks. Amazing story about your dad. I want to take a moment to say thank you to Hoya Vision Canada, our sponsor for this episode. Hoya empowers eye care professionals to achieve their business goals through comprehensive training and regular business reviews. Super High Vision Mirio EX4 is the latest innovative anti-reflection coating that has set new industry standards for clarity and durability. Also, their award-winning myopia management lens, MyoSmart, has sold over 4 million lenses worldwide. To learn more, contact your local Hoya territory manager today and elevate your practice. And now, back to our conversation with Ravi Tanna. Do you have any questions for me, Ravi? You can ask me anything here.
Yeah, I do.
Not too weird. Not the 2 a.m. questions.
Yeah. I am always intrigued and perplexed as to how do you have so much energy? And you've got a lot of moving parts in your life, right? So you and Anita have 5 clinics, right? 5 cold starts. You got a wife, you have 3 children, you have a dog, you're playing 92 sports and doing things like, how do you create energy for yourself in your life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I am thankful for the energy I have. And I really thrive on that. Looking forward to everything. I think I wake up and I'm ready to go, and I'm excited to wake up. Like, I'm excited for the day, even if it's a rainy, drizzly day. I'm like, let's do something fun today. So it's just in me. It's a little bit of a fire in me. I don't know if it's a problem or not. Sometimes I ask my friends, am I a problem? Because, they say, we need 3 best friends. We need morning best friend for Trevor, the afternoon, and the evening best friend, because you're going. But I don't feel I don't feel tired that way. I feel excited. So I think maybe it's a mindset that it's not a burden, but it's an opportunity. And every day, I just can't wait to uncover the opportunities. It seems it's like a little Easter egg hunt. Like, what am I going to get today? And because I'm going to eat all of it. I'm a chocoholic. So kind of mixed metaphors, but you know what I'm saying. It's exciting, and I love that. So thank you for that. I'm glad you feel I've got lots of energy, but there's so many cool things that I'm doing and that we could do. And that's what drives me too, is the opportunity there to make changes in lives, but even just, one-on-one interactions with everybody. I'm excited when I see you. I'm excited when I see my patient. Like, I just think it's cool right now. This is where I want to be, and sort of that mindset of being present and just happy to be where you're at. So some people say, when you're on vacation, did you miss home? No, I was happy to be on vacation. When I'm at work, I'm happy to be at work. So that's kind of the mindset. So things don't drain from me. The energy keeps adding. It doesn't drain. So that's, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, I have one follow-up question too. Okay, so I'm big Ravi, you're big Trevor, right? Like we're grown-ups, we're adults. But there was a time when you were little Trevor, right? Like you're little Trevor wearing a clip-on tie, right? And so, when you're little, there's times when you have like not a worry in the world, but there's also times when you're young, maybe you're a young adult or, high school, university, or fresh in the workforce. You're stressed about 1,000 things. So what advice would big Trevor give little Trevor?
Yeah, it would be more of an Hakuna Matata mentality. And don't do things for achievements. Don't do things for others. Like, do things for your own joy. Like, find the joy in what you're doing. And so I used to be so driven. I guess I'm still driven, but now I'm driven for myself and my passions, as opposed to worrying about, how I be graded, or would I get into this professional program, or would I get this award, or would I make this team? Now it's more like, what can I do just for me that would just make me excited to try the best, to be the best version of myself? And so it's, again, a little bit of a changed mindset where it's internal. It's an internal perspective rather than external, trying to please people that are from outside your sphere, and it's more, driving from within.
Yeah. I find that too. At this age and stage, I'm less worried about what other people think. There was certainly a time where I was kind of consumed by that, right? I was like, I got to say the right thing, do the right thing, appear to be the right way in this professional world, right, that we're working in. And yeah, it was pretty overwhelming and daunting at first, right? Like I remember, when I was a brand new rep in Vancouver in 95, like, I talked to doctors and they would say a bunch of things. I was like, wow, I think I understood 10% of that, and over time I'd be like, hey, can you explain that? Can you teach me what that is? And then, it's kind of just evolved over time where I just feel like, yeah, it's a good network. It's a good profession. People want to help patients, but they also want to help each other, right? I don't find like it's a combative or territorial type of profession. I think everybody wants the tide to rise so that everybody's boats rise with it. And and I think that when you find like, good industry partners that support your practice, you can pick, there's lots of companies, you can pick the ones that you like, right? That work well with you. And then even for us too, right? Like I like to work with doctors who are just like fun and, I enjoy spending time with them. We get into work conversations, but also life conversations as well. So, yeah, lots of those 2 a.m.ers. And I was even talking to a doctor the other day. He's like, I rarely go to conferences. I'm like, dude, you're missing out on half the fun. Like it's really enjoyable in your professional circle. So, yeah, I'm sure you would encourage others to come to conferences and meetings and, myretina.ca, like be at all the things that you can.
Yeah, 100%. You're surrounded by great, passionate individuals, and you always learn something, and you always get something. And I think that's important. That's part of the fuel. You need that fuel to keep going and feel excited about what's next. So that's cool. So speaking of what's next, Ravi, what's next for you? What are you passionate about? What are you working on? I know you have a project you want to do this year. I know you got lots on your plate, but what are some of the things you want to do next?
Yeah, I'm still at the gym, playing hockey, taking care of myself. Spending time with my family. My boys are still living at home, so I'm not an empty nester yet. And so I'm just trying to hang on and value all those days that we have together, and then saying yes to fun things. So I'm going to the Formula One race in Montreal, right, in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about that. And going to Europe this fall, going to Scotland and Spain on a car rally, which should be interesting and fun. And then, just trying to travel and be in different parts of the country and hang out with cool people. So, I was going to launch a podcast this year, but I just have too much on the go. So I think that will probably get shelved until next year or 2 years down the road, until everything is running tickety-boo here. But it's exciting. It's the most I've ever worked, and it's probably the most engaged I've ever been at work as well. And that is spilling over positively into my personal life too.
That's amazing, Ravi. You don't need a podcast. You've been on Optometry Unleashed. So, thank you for joining us, Ravi, and bringing your unique brand of enthusiasm and outlook and an infectious, contagious energy. And you're doing great things. I'd love to see how MacuMira goes forward with helping people see better. It's just an amazing time to be in our profession. And as always, my friend, I appreciate you, and thank you for your time and joining us in Optometry Unleashed. I want to thank all of our listeners. Optometry Unleashed wouldn't be possible without you. If you like our show, please subscribe and give us up to a 5-star rating. If you have suggestions for possible guests, reach out. And thank you again for joining us on Optometry Unleashed. I'm Trevor Miranda, and until next time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Trevor. Much appreciated.
Thank you for joining us on Optometry Unleashed. If you like the show or find the content we provide valuable, please hit the follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's a great way to support our work at zero cost to you. You can also leave us a review of up to 5 stars on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions for me, comments about the podcast, or guests you would like us to consider, please leave us a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts with your feedback. Our team reviews all the comments we receive on the show to guide us in providing better content for our listeners. And thank you again to Hoya Vision Canada for being a proud sponsor of our podcast.